Well, welcome to This Week at CBN. Yesterday, I was meditating on something a little bit unusual. A lot of you know I love to cook, and one of the things I'm experimenting with is how to preserve things. I think a lot of kitchens today, we've sort of lost sight of some of the older techniques that cultures use to preserve meat, and to preserve vegetables and pickling and that kind of thing. Because we've got ready access to refrigerators and to freezers, and for us, preserving food is not a problem. But in ancient times, preserving food was always a problem, because once it was killed, in the case of animals, or once it was picked up from the field, corruption set in pretty much immediately. And so food started to decay, and it was a real problem for them. And it's a problem for us, too. And when we start thinking about how quickly corruption will set into our own bodies when we die, it does give you pause, and you start wondering, okay, is this going to happen to me? Do I need to get pickled in order to be resurrected? Well, here's the promise, and it comes out of Psalm 16, and this is one of the great messianic psalms. I have set the Lord always before me, because he is at my right hand, I shall not be moved. Realize, as you're facing death, if you're considering what's going to happen when you die, let him always be before you. Put your heart on him, trust in him, and realize to be absent from the body is to be present with the Lord. So therefore, your heart will be glad, just as the psalmist was. My heart is glad, and my glory rejoices. My flesh also will rest in hope, for you will not leave my soul in Sheol, which is hell, you won't leave it there, nor will you allow your Holy One to see corruption. You will show me the path of life. In your presence is fullness of joy. At your right hand are pleasures forevermore. Now, the interesting thing about this psalm is that in Acts chapter 2, Peter, in that great sermon immediately following the outpouring of the Holy Spirit, quoted extensively from it, and then made a parallel to say that we know that that's a psalm of David, and he's talking about the Messiah, and he's obviously not talking about himself, because his tomb is right here with us. We know where David's buried, and we know that he has seen corruption. So who's he talking about? And he said, well, he's talking about Jesus, who was raised on the third day. He was not allowed to see corruption. His body was able to rest in hope. And for us, we get to rest in hope. We have that same hope because Jesus has made it possible for us. Here it is in Romans chapter 8. For the creation, that means everything, was subjected to futility, not willingly, but because of him who subjected it in hope. Because the creation itself also will be delivered from the bondage of corruption into the glorious liberty of the children of God. You go back to the story of the Garden of Eden, understand that when God cursed the ground, that's when corruption entered into the universe. And it was subjected to corruption, not to give us futility, but to give us hope that one day there would be a Messiah, and he would come, and he would enable us to be resurrected from the dead and be with him for all eternity. That is the great hope of the church. It's the hope of the resurrection, that we won't see corruption, but we'll see him, and we'll see him face to face. Now, there's another part to this that I find absolutely incredible, that Jesus gives to us the ability to be the preserver for creation. That's what Romans is talking about, that we get to have the glorious liberty of the children of God. That's what that means, that we get to deliver creation. And here it is explicitly from the words of Jesus in Matthew chapter 5. You are the salt of the earth. And what is salt used for? It's used as a preservative. We get to preserve things. And then it says, if the salt loses its flavor, how shall it be seasoned? It is then good for nothing to be thrown out and trampled underfoot by men. Now, give that a little pause. And there was one time where my wife threw out some seasoning salt that I had. It was actually fairly expensive salt because it was made from seawater. And I was like, why did you throw it out? Well, it had been around for a long time, was her explanation, and she actually quoted that verse to me. It had to have lost its flavor. I'll never forget my response to her. It doesn't lose its flavor. It's a rock. When you start understanding that salt stays forever. You know, today they're mining salt out of the Himalayas. The Himalayas used to be at the bottom of the sea. And they're mining salt that still has preservative qualities. It still has. When you understand that's the rock we stand on, that Jesus came, he does not change. And he will always preserve, he will always deliver, he will always save. Oh, then we have hope. And he gives that to us. Now, there's another thing he says. He links it in the same thing. You are the light of the world, a city that's set on a hill, and it cannot be hidden. When you understand you're the light of the world, recently we've had some reports from astronomers. They're peering back into ancient times in the universe. Supposedly they can see back all the way 13 billion years. What are they seeing? They're seeing light that was given off by stars and galaxies 13 billion years ago. It's taken that long for it to come here. In those 13 billion years, that light hasn't changed. It may have shifted a little bit, but it hadn't changed. It's still light. When you understand you get to be the eternal light, that he gives us the ability to be light, to be salt, to be preserved, that we won't see corruption, we won't have that death, but we'll be with him. I hope this gives you hope, because your body can rest in hope, the hope of the resurrection, the fact that he's given us the ability to be the preservative, to be the light. So today, let your light shine. Don't hide it. Let the joy that is in you, the hope that is in you, make sure you're able to give a reason for that hope to anyone that sees it. Well, that's it for this week at CBN. God bless you.